suppose one of the institutions that has gone on that journey has been the Technical University of Dublin. So we have seen it develop from vocational colleges to the Institutes of Technology in Dublin and now to a technical university. And there was obviously concerns about the stories which emerged about the accounting error of €7 million. But I suppose as a more broader, having a more broader kind of oversight of that area, what engagement have you had with HEA and TUD in regards to that particular element, but also in regard to the broader issue of developing a deficit, which, if I'm correct, is in breach of the, was not the idea within the legislation that either borrowing or deficits would be created?
Yeah, that's correct. So first of all, thanks, Deputy, for your comments. Appreciate it, and I agree with what you've said. On the TUD thing specifically, just to rehearse a little bit, this issue arose, I believe, in April of this year, when there was a meeting between TUD and the HEA, where it became clear that there was an accounting issue, and on foot of that. So that's one issue that has arisen. There was also an issue about a projected deficit of the order of 10 million, which the university was projecting forward. And you make the point that TUs are not expected to have extensive borrowing, certainly not at this stage in their development. So what has happened is that there has been engagement between HEA and TUD on this issue under the terms of the new Act. So Section 142 has been invoked, and that means that HEA are providing assistance to TUD on this issue. The HEA commissioned a firm of accountants to look into it. They have produced a report. That report has gone to the HEA board, which has examined it, and will very shortly go to the board of TUD. And then there will be as I would expect to happen, there will be a restatement of the accounts. So that was where
and that would deal with, I suppose, the issue of the accounting error.
Yeah.
I suppose the concern would be that there's an emerging ongoing deficit, and that in some way might be linked to student numbers. And that would be concerning, given the idea that, I suppose, you would think the amalgamation of several bodies would deal with some degree of cost saving, some degree of using each other's resources, whereas it would appear that we now have increased staff and reduced student numbers.
Well, I don't have a definitive read on that, Deputy, because part of the work that was being done was to figure out why this arose, why this projected deficit arose, and to what extent there was an adequate flow of information within the university about student numbers. And the latest I have on that is that the HEA are continuing to engage with the university on that subject. So that's a work in progress. Part of the report was to look at the proper flow of information within the university about student numbers. So that's an ongoing piece of work that the HEA are heavily involved in.
Yeah, no, and I can understand, I suppose, as you say, it's an ongoing piece of work, and I think it's probably something we will return to as a committee, perhaps more directly with the HEA.
Yeah.
But I suppose from a department that's promoting higher education, for the idea of reducing student numbers, particularly in an institution which was more than well placed to take advantage of the technical university legislations, in a campus that has really transformed a big chunk of the city that was underdeveloped. It's really disappointing that there would be any reduction of numbers, regardless of. So I just wonder, that concept of working with TUD to try and improve the offering that's there, or to try and enhance the attendance to get the benefits of the capital money that we're putting in.
Well, I wouldn't. I think there's a bit of information to play out here first. So, to be fair to them, there have been sort of fluctuations in the number of students attending all third-level institutions, okay, and Keith made the point earlier, we were talking about Susie and enrolments, and so
I saw that point,
the enrolments have been fluctuating somewhat, particularly around COVID. So given that we don't, so I think to be fair to the university, we might want to just hold off before making a conclusion about what their enrolments are, because clearly they've had some difficulties in tracking enrolment numbers. The broader point is absolutely correct. There's a big investment there, and there's a lot of commitment to, on the department side, there's no want of commitment to develop the sector, and absolutely endorse what you said about the investment in the campus. So we need to work with them to understand what's going on.
Yeah, and look, I know key role is trying to promote apprenticeships, and we absolutely, as a spokesperson on housing, we absolutely need more availability in that pool. And given that it's such a vocational base in that college, you know, there might be that they would experience a reduction if there was a greater flow of people into the apprenticeship pool. And I suppose that's something for us to keep an eye on. But I know they have a pre-apprenticeship programme that is there, and I understand that is on pause at the moment, despite funding being made available. So again, not something I expect you to answer. Just on one last item, and I actually welcome your words, and I hope they were chosen wisely in regards to they're not expected to borrow at this stage, because I think an institution like TUD would need over time to be able to borrow, particularly on the issue of student accommodation, which was referred to earlier. I think all of the universities are trying to solve this puzzle of how much they can borrow and how they do it, and I think TUD is right in the middle of the city. It does have land, and I suppose there are plans there. Over time, I suppose borrowing for housing purposes, I think, would be something that we should try and facilitate. And I just wonder, is that something that would need to be dealt with by way of a variation to legislation, an amendment to legislation, or can it be done within the current legislative framework?
So the Technological Universities Act does permit borrowing by the TUs, subject to permission by government, by Minister for Public Expenditure, Minister for Finance. So it's not a legislative issue per se.
Okay.
Though they are on the balance sheet, the state's balance sheet, so it would effectively require a government decision to allow balance sheet borrowing, and that's about their own capability to develop income streams and all of that. But it's certainly an ambition for the department, particularly around student accommodation in the first instance.
Yeah.